welcome to the weekly yoga subscription. This is week 4. This week's dynamic practice I'm calling Your Extra 10%. It deals with stability. Stability is demanding, and a lot of my cues are going to make the poses feel, I'm going to call them more energetic, but I can make it feel like there's a little more effort required, like it's a little more difficult, you have to breathe a little faster. That's sort of the point, right? Stability should feel really sort of strong and engaged and inward. So we're going to be doing a lot of what I call huff and puff exercises. We're going to get the blood rolling, get our breathing up a little bit. So huff and puff first, followed by a backbending sequence, which sort of opens up the lungs, opens up the belly, really kind of gets the energy going in the body. We're going to wind down with some foot strength exercises before Shavasana. Okay, great. So thank you so much. Let's start in lying on the back. And so you're prepping for bridge, and this is going to be bridge as a vinyasa, which means you'll lead the way. So let's start by the breathing. So inhale and exhale. So you tap into your breathing. Some of the breaths going in the belly, some of the breaths going in the heart center. And the next time you inhale, you're going to drive your feet through the floor. You're going to peel your spine up off the floor into bridge. Top of your inhale is the top of your bridge. And then exhale, you lower back down. You try that one vertebrae at a time, lying back down. One vertebrae at a time on your inhale, lifting up into bridge. And one vertebrae at a time, back down. So that vertebrae at a time, it's a much more sort of subtle movement, but it involves both the front and the back bodies. So not only the muscles on our dorsal side, the back of our bodies, but also on the ventral side. So it's a mix of front and back. And you can continue doing what you're doing in your bridge pose, this bridge vinyasa. If you'd like to add it, we're going to add a piece of arm movement, shoulder joint movement. As you lift up in the bridge, reach your arms first up toward the ceiling and then back behind you. At the top of your bridge, you can squeeze the shoulder blades in a little. And then exhale, vertebrae by vertebrae, lower down to the floor, and repeat that a few times. So inhale, arms reach up and back. Top of your inhale, squeeze your shoulder blades into the back. That will lift your heart a little higher. And then exhale, hands and hips land at the same time, side by side. And go back and forth like this another few times. So you're getting the blood working, getting the blood circulating into back body, into shoulders. Notice if you're using one leg more than the other leg, or you favoring a leg. And one more time. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. All right. Very good. And so we're going to come up through hands and knees and sit back into a posture, hero's pose, virasana. If you don't need any props for this, that's fine. You point your toes back and you sit in between your heels. So for some people, this doesn't work for ankles. For some people, this doesn't work for knees. For ankles, you're going to need to find some pillow or some cushion, and you put it underneath your ankles, right? So if your ankles are hurting, obviously some support under the shins are going to help, okay? So you can always pause this and go find that support. Not everyone can sit between their heels, so if that's not available, you can sit on your heels. And if this isn't available, you can always sit on the block, and I'll turn away from you so you can see the various levels. The block can go in between your feet. I have it here at the mid-level, but you can also sit up a little higher too. Okay? So this is a good pose to master what props you need for it. Okay? So make sure your knees are okay. Make sure your ankles are okay. Okay? So you're sitting on the block somehow, or just sitting in between your heels. So you sit down, settle down, And once you find your comfortable seat, what I like doing to get a little extra stretch of the skin of the shins and tibialis anterior, you take the skin of the knees and you lift it up toward you. It's going to give you a slightly bigger stretch down the shins. So subtle adjustment, but you might feel that. All right, and so let's try a couple arm variations. So we're seated. Make sure you feel comfortable. You're going to take your hands, interlace your fingers, and you're going to press your palms first up toward the ceiling. So you press your palms up, and as you press your palms up, you're going to notice that your bottom ribs tend to kind of slide forward a little bit. Draw your bottom ribs back, and it should feel like there's an engagement there. So this is the first sort of cue that you can add an extra 10% here. So you draw your bottom ribs in, also draw your shoulder blades in, and then you press your knuckles up toward the ceiling for a palm stretch. So deep breath into side ribs. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. And try this 3 more times. Breathe in. Exhale. Breath in. Exhale. And maybe exhale up another 10%. Deep breath in. And then exhale, you're going to release your hands from behind you. You're going to interlace your fingers. Release your hands from above, interlace your fingers behind you. And if you can't do this, you can always use your strap to bridge the gap, okay? So I'll demonstrate that really quickly. But you can do that and still have this really good arm work here. So if you're holding the strap, that's fine. You're going to draw your shoulder blades in and lift your lungs up. The tendency is to lock out your elbows, bend your elbows a little bit, engage your biceps, and shoulders down, lungs up. And breathe into your collarbones. Breathe into basically the stretch across the heart. So biceps engaged, shoulders down, lungs lift. And 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale. And one last time, breathe in. Okay, great. And then exhale, release. A couple shoulder blade rolls in one direction. A couple shoulder blade rolls in the other direction. And now let's go for Parshva. It's a twist in Virasana, Parshva Virasana. So twist to one side, whichever side. I'll twist to my left, but you can do whatever side. You can twist to one side, front hand to the thigh, back hand, depending on how high you're sitting up, it might just be on your hip, or if you can reach the floor without bending backwards, you can take your fingertips to the floor. And inhale here, deep breath in. Exhale, you can use your arms to twist. All right, and so first twist of the practice. Breathe into both belly and into heart center. And twice more. Breath in. Big exhale. Breath in. Big exhale. All right, and you come back to center. Notice the returning to center, the unwinding. Take a deep breath in, and then exhale, twist to the other side. So you twist, front arm to opposite thigh, fingertips to the floor. Inhale, you're going to lift. Exhale, you twist. And so use the power of your arms. Engage your arms, draw your shoulder blades in, and that will help facilitate your twist. So a few more breaths here. So the next time you inhale, come back to center, you recoil, notice what you can notice, a couple shoulder blade rolls in one direction, a couple shoulder blade rolls in the other direction. Okay, and then come out of Virasana, come out slowly, come to hands and knees. And from hands and knees, you're going to extend one leg back. The foot can be on the floor, and just to test out your knee range, just gently engage and relax your kneecap, draw the kneecap in and relax it a couple times. And you do the same thing on the other side. Extend your leg back, gently engage and release the muscles around your knee a couple times. Okay. Great. And then from here, so let's lie belly down. So we're lying down, toes can point back, and we're prepping for Shalabhasana. So and we're going to alternate between locust, this is Shalabhasana's locust, and plank 3 times in different ways. First to activate the back body, then to activate front body. So option number 1 here, you can use your strap to bridge the gap. This is behind and above your hips. Interlace your fingers or hold the strap. And from here, you press your hips into the floor and lift your lungs forward. And then however high up you go is fine. So you're gonna lift there. The tendency is for people who kind of like want to recoil back. So you lengthen your lungs forward instead and take your biceps back. So elbows unlock, engage your biceps, and then slide your shoulder blades back as your lungs go forward. And if you'd like, you can lift your thighs as well. So here's our first Shalabhasana, first locust. This is the beginning of the huff and puff section, so start breathing deeply. Very good, take a deep breath in. And big exhale from here. You're going to take your forearms to the floor, curl your toes under, bolt your heels back, and what I'd like you to do is press your hips into the floor a lot. So that's some back body engagement. So hips press down energetically, even though physically we're about to lift them, okay? So you keep your hips trying to press down, keep that energy in your body as you draw your bottom ribs up into plank. So from here, energetically, you're not gonna move, but your bottom ribs lift and your hips press down. It basically makes the plank more challenging, more engaging, and you may feel yourself shake a little bit as you're working against yourself. So that's, for me, that's one definition of stability. So 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale. Take a deep breath in, and then exhale, you lower down, and we'll take locust option number 1 again, where you bend elbows, biceps engaged, lungs forward. All right, and you lift your thighs up, lift your legs up. So this is option number 1. Option number 2, try to keep your arms and shoulders exactly where they are as best you can as you let go. So now your hands kind of like slide away from one another, but you're squeezing your back body, trying to get your fingers together as best you can. It's a lot of work for the back of your arms, a lot of work across the mid-back, and as your arms reach, or hands reach together and back, your lungs go forward and up. And there's 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale, and one last time, breathe in. All right, come out of that and into our plank again. Forearms on the floor, press your hips down, even as it's sort of anatomically, they're physically gonna lift by lifting your bottom ribs, but press your hips down and lift your bottom ribs up. And we'll hold this for several breaths. So deep inhales and exhales. And you can choose to sort of make the pose harder for you. Hips down, bottom ribs up, shoulder blades squeeze in, the whole pose sort of squeezing inward. Twice more here. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. And one last time. Take a deep breath in. All right, lower down. Option number 1, locust. Fingers together or hold the strap. Option number 2, you're trying to bring them together. Option number 3, it's more intense for our low backs, but you're going to cantilever your arms forward. So there's more weight being borne through your low back. And from here, elbows bend a little bit. Roll elbow points down and in. So you're going to roll them in, feel that engagement in the shoulders, and then you try to lift like the back side of your arms up. And you breathe here. Another few times. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. 3 more. Deep breath in. Exhale. And one last time. Breathe in. All right, and you lower out of that. Press your hands down into the floor now, and you can come up through hands and knees if you need to. Otherwise, come up into plank with your hands driving through the floor. So bend your elbows a little. Elbows bent. The tendency is for the elbows to kind of point out to the sides, wing out. Draw your elbow points inward and back a little. Should feel more engagement through your shoulders. Shoulder blades siphon into the back, and press your hips down as you lift your bottom ribs up. And 3 more breaths here. So take a huge inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Take a big exhale. Lift your bottom ribs up another ½ inch. Take a deep breath in. Okay, and then lift back into downward facing dog. So last week in the calming practice, we did a very yin dog where our elbows went out and the head's down. This one, we're gonna lift our heart up a little bit. Elbows just slightly bent, and you're gonna rotate your elbow points in. And if you're doing that with enough effort, you might even get a chance to sort of shake a little bit. That just means your muscles are working extra hard. Elbows rotate in. The tendency, especially for natural backbenders, is for your bottom ribs to drop. So as your elbows rotate in, draw your bottom ribs up. Bottom ribs lift. And there's 3 more breaths here. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. Upper thighs way far back. Breath in. Exhale. And one last time. Take a deep breath in. All right, bend your knees. Step up to the top of your mat. Very bent knee forward fold. And then inhale, come part way up. Squeeze the muscles of your back body. Draw your shoulder blades in. And then exhale, round your back. And let's try that several times. Inhale, squeeze your shoulder blades into the back. Arch your spine using the muscles of your back body. Exhale, fold. 3 more times. Inhale, you squeeze. Exhale, you can relax. Inhale, squeeze. Exhale, relax. Inhale, squeeze. Exhale, relax. And then you sweep your arms up overhead. Press your hips forward a bit. Arms sweep up overhead. Okay? And I'm going to turn towards you, but you can just stay where you are. And then from here, your hips are going to press forward, bottom ribs in a little, and exhale, squeeze your elbows inward. And do that 3 or 4 more times. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. Breathe in. Exhale. And then one last time. Okay, great. And then you exhale, release. So you can turn to the sides of your mat, and let's take a wider stance. We're going to do a series triangle and then warrior 2 side angle. So have your block at the ready. You may need it, and we're going to put it. I'm mirroring you now, so you're going to take the block. This is your right foot. You're going to take the block to the outside of your right shin. All right, and then from here, you're going to cut your hips back. So you're just going to squeeze the adductors of your inner leg, like we did last week. So you squeeze, and then exhale, take your hand to the shin, to the block, or to the floor, it doesn't really matter. All right, and then you're going to roll your navel up toward the ceiling. Reach your arm overhead and by your ear, and then from here, rotate your elbow inward, so like downward toward the floor as you draw your bottom ribs up. Yeah, so bottom ribs squeeze in, and you're trying to rotate them up. So there's a lot of engagement here on the top. Breathe into your engagement. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. 3 more times. Breathe in. Exhale. And one last time. Okay, great. And then hand back to hip. Take your block with you. Come all the way up. Bend your knees a bit. Let's try that on the other side. So you're going to take the block to the outside of your left leg if you're using it. And you're going to cut your front hip underneath the back. So cut it underneath. Hand goes to shin, to block, or to floor, however low you want to go. Just make sure you're not like letting go to get further down. So you drive your feet through the floor, and then from here you're going to roll belly up toward the ceiling. Reach your arm up, reach overhead, and you're going to rotate your elbow inward and downward. Okay, so it's almost like you're trying to look at the back of your top arm. All right? If you're a natural backbender, tendency is to splay out. You're going to draw your bottom ribs in and then roll your bottom ribs up. That's more engagement throughout the torso. Now breathe into your top side. Your right ribs, right low back. Another few times here. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. Twice more. Breath in. Exhale. And one last time, breathe in. All right, and then hand back to hip. You can take the block with you as you come up. All right, you bend your knees, take a longer stance. Block to the outside of your right knee. And you're gonna take your thigh out, okay? So this is a warrior two, okay? From here, the tendency is for this front hip to kind of bow back a little bit. So you're gonna press your hips forward. Try to press your hips forward, slide your glutes down a little, and then lift your lungs up. If you're a natural backbender, bottom ribs draw in a little. Okay, and we're warming up the thigh here for sure. Take a deep breath in. Front forearm on the thigh on exhale, or you can take your hand down to the block or to the floor. Same cues in triangle that are in side angle. So you're gonna reach your arm up and overhead. Bottom ribs siphon in. Roll your elbow point down. And breathe into your top side. So breathe into left ribs, breathe into left low back. And as you're doing a good job rolling your belly up, this front knee might come in, press your knee into your arm. And stability here. 3 more breaths. Take a big inhale, big exhale, breath in, big exhale, and one last time, breath in. Okay, great. And you take the block with you. You can come up to a warrior two for a second, hips press forward, and then straighten leg, switch sides. Block to the outside of your left foot, okay? And you bend your front knee forward. So here's our Vitalize 2. Tendency, so Vera 2 is usually arms out, but we can focus on the legs here. Tendency is for that hip to be out and our torso to kind of be all over the place. So you use your outer legs and press your hips kind of forward relative to your belly. So press it forward. Bottom ribs draw in. So like hips press one way, bottom ribs draw the other, just like we did in plank. This thigh's warming up, take a deep breath in, and then exhale, let's come in the side angle. All right, and then you're gonna press your leg into your arm. That also helps press this front hip like in this direction. So like towards your anterior torso. And you're gonna draw bottom ribs in, same cues for the top arm. You're gonna reach it up and overhead. Same cues as in triangle, rotate elbow downward. And if you're doing a good job with that, the tendency is to splay out through the bottom ribs. You're gonna siphon them in. Just try to make this 10% harder, and then breathe 10% more. Take a deep breath in, exhale, breath in, exhale, and one last, take a deep breath in. Okay, great, and you can take the block with you, come back up, straighten your legs. We're gonna come in a little bit for a wide-legged forward fold. Put the block out to the side. And then bend your knees a little bit, hands come down. All right, so because we are doing a lot of back bends today, I'm gonna encourage you, rather than to fold your spine, to actually draw your shoulder blades in and lift your lungs forward and up. So it's a very similar muscular engagement as we were in locust. In fact, if you have your balance, you can even try one of those couple locust options, either arms behind you, fingers together, or you're pressing your palms together, okay? But if balance is a concern, just keep your arms on the ground, but you can still navigate those muscles on the back body. You breathe in the belly, continue breathing in the chest, lift your inner thighs up toward the ceiling. So thighs lift up. And if you have tight hamstrings or adductors, you'll get a decent stretch on the back of your legs here as well. 2 or 3 more breaths. Take a big inhale. Big exhale. Inhale. Okay, great. So drive your feet through the floor, drive them down, hands onto hips. And then from here, you press your hips forward to come up. Arms reach up above you. Take a deep breath in, and then exhale from there. Release. And you can step together. Okay, so handstand is next. And so I'm going to divide people to, there's two choices, 2 paths here. And we'll meet after a while. First path is to re-explore downward facing dog, because the effort in your arms All right, that's exactly what we're doing in handstand in downward facing dog. So option number one, you press your hands down, rotate your elbows in, natural backbenders especially, but everyone can draw your bottom ribs in and up. And so that's really what you're doing in handstand. If you want to lift up on your toes and add a little more weight, you could do that too. But from here, if you don't want to do the handstand practice or you don't have wall space, go ahead and stick with downward facing dog. Okay? If you do have the wall space and you like to try the handstand, we're not working on balance today. We're working on strength and endurance. So don't bother seeing if you can balance. Just take your fingers about 2 inches or so away from the wall. Okay? One foot steps up, other leg lifts, and then I usually exhale up. Okay? So try this a couple. If you don't get up after a couple of times, just take the downward facing dog. It's the same cues, similar cues. Okay? So you're driving your arms into the floor. Everybody can add some buoyancy to their elbows, so we're not locking out elbows. Everyone rotate your elbow points inward. And especially if you're a natural backbender, the back's going to really extend. Draw your bottom ribs in. As you try to press your hips forward away from the wall, draw your bottom ribs toward the wall. You should feel your heels slide up a little higher as you expand. And if you're not done already, we'll be done in 3 breaths. Take a big inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Exhale. And one last time, take a deep breath in. All right, and wherever you are, you're going to come down to hands and knees. Couple shoulder blade rolls. And other direction. All right, if you need to make some wrist circles, you can do that. Let's come up to standing. All right, so we got a lot of work in our arms. Let's now get it in the legs. So into, we're at chair pose. So bend your knees and you reach your arms up and you rotate your elbows in just like we did in handstand or downward facing dog. All right, so we're all back on track. You drive your feet through the floor. And as you try to sit down, you're also trying to lengthen your lungs up. Natural backbenders, tendency is for backbend. Draw bottom ribs in. And there's 3 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Big exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Inhale here. And then from here, exhale. You can take your hands down to the floor for a second. Step your right foot back. So we're in a lunge. Your back heel's off the floor, if possible. And then from here, you reach your arms forward, elbow points roll in, and you squeeze the muscles of your back body to come up into Anjalayasana. All right, so back heel drives back, front foot drive it straight down through the floor, bottom ribs squeeze in, elbows rotate inward. So energetically, you sort of you're squeezing inward towards your core line. And there's 2 more breaths here. Take a deep breath in, exhale. And one last, take a deep breath in, and then exhale. If you have it in you, weight over front foot, drive that front foot forward, and as quickly as you can, come back up to the chair pose. So no break, working that extra 10%, breathing 10% more. Okay, and then we're going to try it on the other side. Hands down for a moment. Send your left leg back. We're in a low Anjalayasana. And you reach your arms forward. Elbow points roll in, and you squeeze the muscles of your back to come up into high Anjalayasana. High lunge. So yeah, drive the front foot through the floor, back foot through the floor. Natural backbenders in particular, bottom ribs in, elbow points rotate in, and you lift your arms up. And breathe into the whole thing. And twice more here. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. And one last time. Take a deep breath in. Okay, if you have it in you, right foot drives through the floor. You step up into chair. And last chair of the practice. Feeling the legs on fire. Drive your feet through the floor. Lungs lift. 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Big exhale. One last time. All right, and then plant your hands, go back into plank. All right, and as you press your hips down, lift your bottom ribs up. Few breaths here. So the legs have it easier in plank. Now it's the abdominals, arm work here. Press your hips down, lift your bottom ribs up. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. And one last time, breath in. So it's all lower down. All right, great. Couple breaths here. And your toes point back. So, in our next back bends, this is either cobra or upward facing dog. The tendency is for the shoulder blades to sort of pop forward. So hands on the floor, and you might have to adjust this when you get up, but place your hands on the floor, engage your biceps, squeeze your biceps, and slide your biceps away from your ears. That helps connect your arms to your torso, and you're to keep that there as you squeeze your low back, lift your lungs. And so this is one variation of cobra, where you're really using your back body here with hands on the ground. Okay? If you have more of a back bend, you can come up as high as you'd like. So this is about where I am today. All right? And from here, the tendency, the more weight you add onto your hands, the more this is going to happen. The shoulder blades kind of give up the ghost. So you're going to take your shoulders down your back, biceps engage, and then from here, send your biceps back, lungs forward. And if you want to push down to lift your hips and thighs off the floor, you can do that too in Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog. Tendency is to lock out elbows. Please bend them, engage your biceps, challenge your arms. All right, all those cues make it 10% harder. Breathe across heart center. And 5 more breaths here. Shoulders descend, lungs ascend, quads strongly engaged. And 2 more breaths. Take a big inhale, big exhale. And one last time, breathe in. Okay, knees down, come through hands and knees. And then from here, take your knees wider, and let's all meet back in some kind of child's pose. So the knees go wide, so our hips can flex, but our spine doesn't round too much. Because again, we're about to start our back bending sequence. So I really just want to go in one direction today. So yeah, several breaths here. So notice all the work you've done. Again, what I call huff and puff, right? Heart's probably beating a little bit faster. You can feel blood in a lot of your body coursing through it. All right, great. And then from Balasana, let's come on to belly again. So, belly's on the floor. Let's arrive up into Sphinx pose. All right, and what we just did in upward facing dog, you do it in Sphinx pose a little less, right? We don't have to go up to 100% like we do in Cobra. So biceps engaged a little bit, shoulders draw back a little bit, and we're up. Okay. Now, half frogs. From Sphinx is half frog with a knee bend. Okay. So you reach your right arm back, bend your right knee, and see if you can hold your foot. If this does not work for either your shoulder or your knee, feel free to use a strap. Okay? And you can take a strap around your foot like this. Okay? And then from here, you gauge how far you bring your foot in by your joints, and make sure your joints are okay. All right, so I'm going to draw my foot in about here. That's okay for my knee, and I'm getting a stretch in my quad. That's what I'm after. Okay. So from here, as you draw your knee in, your right hip's going to want to lift. So please press your right hip into the floor. That will almost that usually gives more stretch to people. And then from here, send your lungs forward as your right shoulder goes back. Now really it's like both lungs going forward, but it's relatively easy for our left lung to go forward. So you can focus on your right lung. Slide it forward and up. And now breathe into belly, breathe in the heart center, down your right side. You can focus on the right. Several breaths here. All right, and one more time. Take a deep breath in and exhale. So relax your efforts in your hips first, and then you can let go of your leg. Head can come down or to one side. Curl both toes under and gently press your heels back. This is a counter to the knees. It's like full extension from the full flexion that we just used. All right. So deep breath in the belly and exhale. Okay, so we'll do the other side. I'm gonna switch so you can see it, but you don't have to switch. So we're in Sphinx pose, and Sphinx pose is basically half frog by bending your left knee. So from here, you reach back, use the strap if you need it, and just know that one knee might be completely different from your other knee. Shoulders are different from side to side too. So if you just need a strap on one side, fine. That's good to know. So then you listen to your knee as you draw your foot in, okay? And you're going to get some kind of stretch down in your left quad, right? Left thigh muscle. Okay. As you draw your knee in, the hip tends to want to recoil from the floor. So press your left hip pointer, okay, into the ground, the bony part of your hip. And then from here, hip presses down, and you're going to send your left lung forward as you slide your left shoulder back. Now you're doing that on both sides. It's just relatively, it's so easy on the right side compared with the left. So you can focus on the one side. Your right side will follow very easily. So shoulders back, lungs lift forward and up. And now you're breathing down your left side into belly, into heart center. And let this pose soak in a little bit. Okay, and one more breath here. Take an inhale. As you exhale, first relax your efforts in your hip so it recoils up again. And you let your left leg go. Return toes to floor, curl them under, and press your heels back. Head can come down or to one side. And breathe into your abdomen a couple times here. As you press your heels back, knee is now in full extension. Okay. Great. So from here, I'm going to switch again, but you don't have to. You stay where you are. And you can come to the Sphinx pose. Okay. So option number one for the next one. This is Dhanurasana, bow pose, is basically Sphinx pose plus your knees bent. Okay. Draw your shoulder blades in. Option number two is you take our Shalabhasana option, the locust, and you reach your arms back. This is option number two. Okay. Option number three, you can either, if you bend your knees enough that you can take hold of your ankles, you can take hold of outer ankles or inner ankles. Okay. So whatever you want to do there, just make sure your elbows can remain unlocked and you're going to lift up. Okay. That's option number three. So right now I'm holding the inside of my ankles. Here I'm going to hold the outside of my ankles and I lift my lungs up, shoulders back, lungs up. If you're interlacing your fingers, you send your arms back, try to lift your thighs up a little. And if you're in Sphinx pose, press your hips down, try to lift your thighs up a little. And there's 2 or 3 more breaths here, whatever variation of bow pose you're trying out today. So you breathe in the belly, continue breathing in the heart center. So back bends are very like awakening. So like awaken the breath in your lungs. Great, and then exhale, you release out of that. Head to one side, breathe in the belly. If you are feeling any strain in your low back, you can take feet to one side, feet to the other, and try that a couple times. Okay. And then let's try that let's try either of those options again. Option number 1, Sphinx pose. Option number 2, locust. Option number 3, full Dhanurasana, and you lift. So just like in our upward facing dog, especially if you're doing one of the last 2 options, the tendency is to want to try to pry your lungs back. That tends to jam into the low back. So slide your shoulders back, but really try to get the lungs forward. Lungs go forward, and how high up you go, really, that's not a big concern because you're going to go up to your natural end of this. So lungs forward, compress your heels up a little, and then breathe along the front side of your spine. That's into all organs, your abdominal organs, your lungs, your heart center. See to it that elbows can remain unlocked. Your arms can be pretty straight. Just make sure you can engage your biceps. And there's 2 or 3 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Big exhale. Breath in. Exhale. Now let's do one more. Take a deep breath in. Okay. Come out of that. Release. Head to other side. And breathe into your abdomen a breath or 2. All right. So now let's flip over. Okay, so we're lying on the back. And let's all do bow pose, upward facing bow, Urdhva Dhanurasana, option number 1, which is basically the bridge pose that we did at the beginning of our practice today with our hands on the ground next to our ears. Okay, and I like this one a lot as training. Can you make this more effortful, by which I mean more stable? So you drive your feet into the floor to lift your hips. You press your hands into the floor and draw your shoulder blades into your back to lift your lungs. All right, and you just stay here. Breathe into the front side. Notice the back body's doing a lot of engagement to open up the front side. Dorsal engagement, ventral length. And 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Big exhale. One last time. All right, and then you lower down and you pause. All right. So my hope is you can engage into that enough that there's not quite a full expression of sort of openness through the front body, but that you are feeling that openness. Through engaging back body, we open the front. Okay? So that's option 1. You can do that option all 3 times if you don't want to go any further into upward wheel. Okay? If you'd like to explore upward, Urdhva Dhanurasana, bow pose, Dhanurasana, you're going to draw your shoulder blades into the back, lift your hips. This is option 1. Option number 2, you can either just take your head to the floor, squeeze your elbows toward one another, or if it's available, you press into the floor and you draw your shoulder blades in to express your heart. You press your hips up to open belly and thighs. Now the tendency is going to be to either A, lock out your elbows or have the elbows swing out wide. Draw your elbows inward and then you press and you're going to feel more engagement around your shoulders. If you're prone to headaches, tuck your chin a little bit. So this is the variation that I like doing. Look up at the ceiling and it thwarts some of the blood, like too much blood from entering the head. So that's the variation I practice. 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale. Take a deep breath in. If you're in Dhanurasana, everyone look at the ceiling so you don't land on your head as you lower with control. Shoulders down, peel your spine to the floor so hips land, and you pause. All right. So my hope is that the front body feels even more sort of exciting and open and awake and attentive. So we're gonna do that one more time. Option number 1 is always available, where you don't have to lift at all. So you can take your hands, you don't have to lift your shoulders at all. You take your hands to the floor, elbows squeeze in, shoulders squeeze in, hips lift. This is option number 1. You stay here, you engage, you breathe a lot. Option number 2, if you want to push your head down and take your head, or hands down and take your head to the floor, or if you want to lift up into the full expression of Dhanurasana. All right. You breathe a lot down the front side of your spine, all the way from belly to the heart center. Okay, and drive your feet down. Notice if you favor a leg, maybe there's more weight on one side. Try to find equal weight as you lift your hips up. Do you favor an arm? Equal weight between your hands. Elbows roll in. Squeeze your shoulder blades in. And breathe a lot into belly, into heart center. This is a full abdominal thoracic breath. 2 or 3 more breaths here. To come out of this, everyone look up to the ceiling, and with control, you lower down, shoulders land because you're looking up, and then you sort of peel your spine back down, hips land on the floor. All right. Great. So huge inhales, exhales here. All right. So let's come up to knees. We're going to take camel pose. And we're just going to do this once. So I'll give you all the options in camel right away. So you're up. What are your feet doing? Your toes can point back, or your toes can curl under, whatever feels best for your balance. And let's all start in option number 1. Hands to the glutes. You're going to slide your glutes down and press your hips forward. Okay? So hips are going forward. Draw your shoulder blades away from your ears and peel your lungs up toward the ceiling. All right, so this one you need to use your back body to express the front, but now you need the front body to support the whole pose. So now we're going against gravity in a sense, right? So you feel your abdominals engage a lot more. Draw your shoulder blades into the back and press your hips forward, lift your lungs up. This is option number 1. Option number 2, if you'd like to take one hand or both hands to your heel, if that's not pinching your back, by all means try it out. If it's pinching your back, just take your hands back up to the glutes and lift your lungs, okay? And in fact, everybody has to lift their lungs. So if your hands are on your heels, very little weight because your hips are pressing forward, your heart's expanding upward. Squeeze your shoulder blades in as tightly as you can. And breathe abdominal, thoracically. That's into belly plus into heart center. And try to breathe 10% more. Inhale 10% more. Exhale 10% more. And one last time. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. Now you're going to use your thighs. You're going to use your heart center. Lift your lungs up. And come out of camel. And then exhale. If it feels okay for your knees, you can sit back on your heels. Otherwise, come to hands and knees and pause there. All right, yeah. And take a deep breath in. And big exhale. Great. Okay, so that's our backbending practice. Grab your block. We'll use a block after we check in. So blocks at the ready. But before we go on to our strength training, the footwork that we're going to do, we did a lot of opening here. Allow it to sort of return to center. And notice the space we've created around our lungs and around our abdomen. Okay, great. So from here, we're going to take your block and either at the lowest level, maybe the mid-level, I guess high if you really want to do it. I will stick with the mid-level. But whatever feels comfortable for your hips to lie on. This is a relaxed back bend, and it's a bit of an inversion. And we're going to take our legs up in the air. So for Viparita Karani. All right. And so there's some thigh engagement. Notice that there's some psoas engagement. Notice that. Make sure this feels sustainable because we're going to be here for about 2 minutes before we take our feet to the floor again. So by sustainable, make sure it's not too much of an effort to keep your legs up. If it is, you can take your legs up the wall. Okay. All right. So from here, we're gonna make this a vinyasa. As you inhale, breathe in the belly, and you're gonna extend your toes as much as you can. So open up your toes. And as you exhale, dorsiflex the toes like you're making a fist with your feet, and go back and forth like this at the pacing of your breath. So exhale, you make a fist with your feet. Inhale, open your toes. Exhale, close. And you don't have to do it at my pace, just do it at some moderate to slow, thoughtful pace. And notice if you can move the toes without moving your ankles. We will move the ankles for sure. This is about strength training the stems of our toes. So do this a couple more times as you breathe in and out. Okay, great. And then relax your toes. And as you inhale next, you're going to press your heels up toward the ceiling. And then exhale, lift the tops of your feet toward the ceiling. And you repeat this in vinyasa, which means the breath leads the way. And as you inhale, you're going to notice the calves stretch. And as you exhale, the calves engage as you stretch the tops of your feet. And see if you can navigate this movement with your ankles and the toes get a chance to relax. Yeah, work toward the edges of your range of motion. Okay. Very good. So that's dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. From here, we're going to invert and evert the feet. What does that mean? You're going to press your heels up the whole time. And as you inhale, you're going to turn the soles of your feet toward one another. And then exhale, turn your soles of your feet away from one another. So this is ankle movement. You see, like my knees are moving like a tiny bit, but like it's not rotation of the hips. It is almost exclusively ankle movement. And so you go back and forth like this several times. With your breathing, I usually inhale as I invert, exhale as I evert. Okay. Great, and then legs together, and if your feet come together, that's fine. If not, that's fine. And you're gonna make the biggest circles. This is again ankle movement. So it's like you're drawing circles in the air with your toes. like the toes are the tip of the pen. And the movement's being accomplished with your ankles. And after several circles in one direction, you change the direction. And if the feet or ankles are feeling pretty tired, that's good. You're doing good work in your lower legs, in your feet. Great. And then from there, release one foot to the floor, other foot to the floor, and pause here a moment. All right. So you might need to change where exactly the block is. I put it a tiny bit closer to my tailbone. And what that allows me to do is keep my hips relatively still as I do a couple variations in this bridge pose. Okay? So see to it that your hips are supported. You kind of stay here, or if you'd like, slide one heel forward along your mat. Gently press it out, and that'll give you a little bit more of a stretch through psoas. And perhaps through your hip pointer. So very gentle engagement. Heel presses out. Breathe into lower abdomen. And then from there, you return that foot to where it started in full bridge pose. And then we'll try that on the other side. So send your other leg forward. Press your heel out. And breathe into lower abdomen. Okay, great. And then place both feet onto the floor. Engage your glutes for sacral stability. As you lift your hips, you can take the block out of the way. Lower your hips to the floor. And then from there, rock your knees to one side, the other side. Okay, great. And then everyone find your strap. And you're going to extend your left leg forward along the ground. Right foot, take the strap around your right foot and extend your right leg up in the air for Supta Pada 1. So like I mentioned in our wide-legged forward fold, we weren't doing a lot of sort of dorsal line stretching. That's the back side of the body. But this is always a good counter to back bends. So if you did feel like you sort of overdid it in the back bends, this is a good release. For low back, hamstrings. So you press your right heel up, press your left heel forward. You kind of notice the spaciousness you've created down the left side of your body, like thigh, belly, heart center. In terms of like applied yoga, like for what we've done today, the tendency might be to kind of hold onto the strap with the shoulders up toward the ears. You can gently slide your shoulder blades away from your ears to help open up through heart center. And breathe up and down along the front side of the spine. And we're winding down so the breath can be more subtle, more refined. Very good. Then you bend your right knee for the switch. Slide your right heel forward. And let's try that on the other side. So strap around left foot. And you press your left heel up toward the ceiling. All right. So yeah, so quads very gently engaged. As we're winding down, you can find these engagements at lower and more subtle levels. So maybe 10% engagement here, 10% along the front of the shin. All that footwork that we've done, you can open your toe, press your heel up at 10%. And then notice the spaciousness from the front of the right leg up through the front side of our torso. There's some gentle collection. The shoulder blades draw away from your ears and toward one another. Helps keep a little bit of fortitude in our back body, which really helps open and relax heart center. And then breathe along the front side of your spine, all the way from lower abs to the tips of your lungs. And exhale from the tips of your lungs to your abdomen. All right. So from here, let's bring both legs up into the strap for a supported version of Supta Dandasana. You're going to drive your heels up toward the ceiling, both quads engaged. And then from here, shoulders away from ears. And course your breath along the front side of your spine. Very good. And you can release your strap, remove the strap, you can place it out to the side. All right, feet together, knees relax outward, breathe into lower abdomen. Notice this sort of wind down, cool down practice. We built up a lot of heat over the course of the practice. And so now as the body cools down, that stabilization work gets a chance to infuse into the body. And then from here, extend one leg forward. Extend other leg forward into Shavasana. All right. So again, we did a lot of work today. We worked on heat building, stabilizing work, a lot of squeezing in. Now we get a chance to uncoil, soften, and drop down for a moment. Okay, so continue to feel the weight of your bones. Feel the weight of your bones. Allow your bones to drop down in your final relaxation. If you can recall over the course of the past hour, were there any muscle groups that were really working that extra 10%? We did a lot of planks, could have been arms, could have been abdomen. Through our Utkatasana, our chair sequence, through lunges, we did a lot of leg work. And our backbend sequence utilized a lot of our back body. So if you can recall the muscles that worked an extra 10%, in your final relaxation, can you soften them and relax them another 10%. And then allow that extra 10% relaxation to diffuse throughout your entire body. Notice that softness. Notice that infusion for a couple minutes. Okay. Very good. So from here, guide your awareness to your breathing. And start taking some gently deeper inhales, gently deeper exhales. And breathe throughout your torso. And guide a breath into your hips, down your legs, as if you're breathing into your feet. And guide a breath through your shoulders, down your arms, like you're breathing into your palms. And then guide a breath into your brain, like you're breathing along inside skull. And exhale down your face. Okay, and then please draw one knee into your chest. Give your knee a tight hug. Squeeze it in. Breathe into your low back. And then switch legs. Draw your other knee in. Give it a good hug. Sweep a breath across your low back. And then draw both knees in. Take a big inhale. And big exhale. Roll over onto one side. Pause on your side. And notice what it feels like to move after a brief period of stillness and calm. And then with as little effort as possible, guide your way up to a comfortable seat, cross-legged or otherwise. All right, and then upright, allow your back body to be gently supportive of your posture. So at like 3% effort, shoulder blades away from ears and into body. Help pick up your lungs. So spaciousness in your lungs, spaciousness in belly center. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for your practice. I hope you are well. Stay safe. Namaste. Thank you.